You're listening to 89.3 The Current. This is New Hot, and to kick off the show tonight, that is the title track from the forthcoming album from Hippocampus. It's called Bambi, and it's out this Friday, and I'm so excited because Nathan and Zach from Hippocampus are here, and we're going to listen to the entire album together. Welcome, guys. How's it going?
It's going great.
It's good.
It's
How are
going
you?
great.
Now, to start things off, before we hit record, you guys were talking about how this album is different than your debut. Let's just start it off. What's different about it?
Might be more poignant to ask what's
not different.
What's not different? No, it's I think so. The process behind Bambi was a little bit different than with Landmark, because with Landmark we all got in a room, started writing songs, just song a day, everyone all together, and we learned a lot during the Landmark process about recording and home studio stuff. So like on this process, we kind of took some time individually writing songs, like crafting a production style for the idea first, so that we could like translate that idea to each other with a little bit more clarity. So it's like, oh, I want it to sound like this, I want it to have this vibe. So coming together with that was another huge learning process. And then taking those demos that we did with each other to BJ was a whole nother form of evolution for the songs as well. So, just changing the process is one of the main things that's different about the record.
Right. And content-wise, I think Landmark and most of our material before Bambi was a look back. Everything was like reflection on what had happened to us in the past. And this record, I think, is a look forward, or more of a like present, in the moment kind of record with the themes that we're talking about in this batch of songs. So,
well, you guys grew up together, right? I mean, let's give some context around this. You guys started this band at a very young age, and you put out your first album, and things changed really rapidly for you. How did you take time to sort of, stop and go, where are we?
Sure.
Whew.
A lot of
big question. I mean, it depends what you call growing up, but we did, become a lot of who we are today when we were, in each other's lives. Especially being on the road, being in school, writing music together.
I think the reflection just happens when we're writing songs together, when we're working on things. Just kind of, I don't know if we ever.
It's kind of like what's closest to the surface.
Yeah.
Like when we're writing, it's like, this is what I'm feeling right now. And it is intentional in that way when you choose to pursue a concept like that. But it's never been like I go around my days walking quietly in the halls thinking, I should write a song about this.
Right.
Well, I think that some of the things you guys are talking about, we can hear on these songs, and the listeners tonight are going to hear these songs for the first time. You've lived with them, you wrote them, you recorded them, and now they're all going to be out on Friday. So we're going to listen to the album top to bottom. We did hear Bambi already. We might listen to that one again. Maybe we'll put it in the middle of the set.
Sure.
But we're going to start off with the first track. It's called Mistakes. It's a very atmospheric track. It's a different take on what people might expect from Hippocampus. So let's listen to it, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And we're listening to the new album from Hippocampus. It's Bambi. We're in the studio with Nathan and Zach, and this is Mistakes on The Current. 89.3 The Current, you're listening to New Hot, and this week on the show you are hearing the entire new album from Hippocampus that is out this Friday. It's called Bambi, and we're in the studio with Nathan and Zach of Hippocampus, and that song's called Anxious. And the first time I listened to that song, because I was able to get a little preview of the album, some of the sounds reminded me of the production of Jimmy Tamborello, Dentel, and Postal Service. I don't know if that's what you guys were going for on the song. It has this different vibe. It's definitely an evolution of your sound. Before that, the first track on the album, which is called Mistakes, both songs are a really different direction for the band. Talk about what you guys put into those tracks.
Well, Mistakes was a song that Jake had written just on acoustic, and it was kind of like what it was, kind of what you hear, but just way stripped back. And then he and BJ and Nathan actually were all like in the studio, and then they kind of expanded it to the production that it is now. And we all knew that it was like, wow, that's just beautiful. Like, we love that. But we didn't really know like what to do with it. It's like, this is quite different.
Yeah, finding a place for it within the batch of songs that we had at the time was kind of like, this will be interesting. Like, didn't think it would start the record, but it was obvious that we wanted to, pursue it. And I think that song is, I think it's good. It's a good first statement, at least for us. It's like, it's laying the groundwork. Like, we don't know what's going on here. We make mistakes. Like, this whole album could be wrong.
Yeah, well, it's kicking things off though with a sense of vulnerability. I mean, that must have been a process, right? Deciding what to put first on the album.
Yeah, and I think, there's a sample in there of a homeless man that I was talking to outside in Philly, outside the venue, and he was singing this song, "Don't be afraid of the way that you feel. If in your heart what you feel is for real." And that kind of like, was another...
Is that an actual song?
Yeah.
Who's it by?
Sky.
I don't know that.
And you just recorded it on your phone?
Yeah. I'd been talking to him, and we were like holding hands through the chain link fence. It was really strange. It was really late. There's nobody else around, and then I think that message kind of just kept coming back into the mix with when we were writing lyrics, and obviously we can get into that later. But
we made sort of a more conscious decision on this record to be a little bit more vulnerable with the lyrics, with the music, just with the like the creative freedom that we wanted to take with a lot of these songs. And
that's what Mistakes and Anxious are about.
Yeah,
for sure.
And all the songs on the record also represent like these creative moments that we all shared with each other, like in the making of the album, where it was like we all found this moment, this vibe that was like, okay, this is actually like working pretty well. Like, this is a cool thing that we can represent ourselves with on the album. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Anxious, that actually was really hard to make. We had nobody agreed on it. It was like, this song sucks. This song is awesome.
Well, you guys, Zach, you mentioned BJ Burton, who is the producer who you worked with on Landmark and this new album. Now, he's worked with Bon Iver and Low and countless other bands, but is he the tiebreaker in the room when you guys are making these decisions?
Sometimes. It's hard to say that we have a perfect democracy. We have an odd number of people, which helps sometimes, but sometimes it's just like who is really feeling it the most. Like sometimes we have to let the right of way go to the person that is like most adamant about something, which is hard because then it becomes emotional and not very objective, which is how you want to operate in a professional sense. But BJ, has his own opinions. We all, come to the room with these different experiences, these different thoughts on what to do. So it's like when we find something that we can all sort of agree on, get behind, feel excited about, then that's when we know like this is actually kind of special. We have to like kind of be careful with this.
We're in the studio with Nathan and Zach of Hippocampus. We're listening top to bottom to the new album Bambi, which is out this Friday. You guys, we're going to listen to a couple more tracks here. We're going to get into a song I really want to dig into on the next time we get a chance to talk here. It's called Why Even Try, because I know a lot of this album touches on themes of anxiety. I mean, we just listened to a song called Anxious and depression, and I really want to talk about that. But first, let's listen to the next song on the album. It's called Doubt, and when I first listened to this song, it really feels like the evolution of Hippocampus. It feels like maybe a piece of Landmark. It has what sounds like looping guitar parts, really driving bass, and you guys, I mean, Zach on bass, Nathan on guitar, like, you guys can rip.
Thank you.
And if anybody's, for everybody out there who's seen your show, you guys tear it up. So this song really felt like you guys tearing it up a little bit more compared to the lead into the album. So talk about it. Talk about Doubt.
Whew, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
So it started like I just like came up with that piano line or that synth line on like a whirly with some distortion. I was like, this is like almost too simple. I hate this. So then I finished making like the first idea and I was like, I like it. And then I took it to the guys and I was like, I really don't think this is going to become a song. This is just too weird. And then we started jamming on it, and it was like another one of those like cool moments where it's like, this is working. Why is this working? I don't get it. And then like we all came together on the chorus, and it was amazing. And then we kind of demoed it out ourselves, and we got it to this place where we like really, really liked it. And then the studio version is kind of an extension of that. It embellishes some things like the drums. It kind of heightens the energy where it needs to be heightened. And then what was really cool was we had Corey Wong come in and play guitar on this track, and he rips the solo that you hear in the bridge, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
And he was just so cool. He's such a good guitar player.
Yeah.
He made us look bad.
Oh my God, that dude's a monster.
But he's the nicest guy too.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Right on. Well, let's listen to the song. We're in the studio with Nathan and Zach of Hippocampus, listening to songs from the new album Bambi. This one is called Doubt, and it's on The Current. You're listening to New Hot on The Current. My name's David Safar, and today we're joined by Nathan Stocker and Zach Sutton, bass player and guitarist of Hippocampus. We are listening to the new album Bambi, top to bottom. And as I'm thinking about it, and as you guys are talking about this album, calling you guys, bass player, guitar player, it doesn't apply anymore, because on this album you're all multi-instrumentalists. You're all adding all these different parts and elements. You're writing songs. So we just heard a song called Why Even Try, and it has some jangly guitar parts. It's got a bunch of different sounds on it. Talk about the structure of that song.
It was an earlier demo that I had. It was a very honest sitting down, telling it like it is kind of narrative on this relationship that had gone wrong in my life, and the feeling of not knowing what to do. Like, what's the point if this just keeps happening? It's all cyclical. And again, that theme of like relationship maintenance shows up everywhere across the record, and I think Why Even Try is a pretty frank statement about that.
Yeah, it is a theme on the album. Is it a common theme among all of you too, that you guys are all kind of going through as you've been sort of taking this journey to album number 2?
Together and individually. It's hard to be on the same page all the time, and the way that influences our lives and relationships with people that we don't go on tour with, people that we come back to, and things become different, and trying to navigate that sometimes is just really, really difficult. In this day and age too, it's like anything could blow up at any moment,
Are you guys on social media just all the time?
I am. I'm going to be the first to admit that I have a problem.
Addicted to your phone,
I guess.
Yeah.
But I also like playing games.
But that's hard because it's one thing when you're on social media and then you see people, right? I'm sorry, I'll laugh along with you, but like it's a kind of a serious thing, right? When all of a sudden then you're on the road, you're gone, but people feel like they should still be really connected to you because of these platforms.
You don't have an excuse anymore. Like you can't be gone anymore.
Right. It's like a part-time job,
totally,
on top of your full-time job, which is playing this band, right? So.
It stresses me out, man.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Come on,
raise
David.
the level of anxiety in the room. But speaking of being on the same page, when Hippocampus gets together and makes an album, you got to pick an album title. And in the sequence of songs, just before Why Even Try, is the song Bambi, the song we kicked off the show with today and became the title track of the album. So talk about that word. It means a couple different things, right? Bambi it's the name of a Disney movie that like a lot of kids grow up with this impression of what Bambi means, right? What does it mean to you guys?
Yeah, there's that. I didn't want to call it that, for the record.
All right, not on the same page.
So it was very similar to the Apple story. It's like Steve Jobs was like, if no one can come up with anything better, it's going to be called Apple.
Right.
And we tried so darn hard. But Bambi came from, so Jake has an aunt named Bambi, and she has this lake house in Long Lake, Wisconsin, or it's on Long Lake, Wisconsin, close to Cumberland. And we go there all the time just for like writing purposes and just
since we started the band, we've been going up there.
And it's always been this like really creative sort of representation for us, where it's like we can go there to be ourselves, we can go there to create, we can go there just to be friends. And we went there during the recording process with BJ, and we just like isolated ourselves and focused in pretty early on in the process. And we were like just joking, like, what if we called the album Bambi? We were like, that'd be sick. And then we were like, nah, let's think of something better. And 5 months later, still hadn't come up with anything.
Right.
So we were like, okay. And we had all these other options flying around the room, but
yeah, there was words, man. Words sometimes.
Words are challenging.
But it worked out. I think it's it's an ode. It's a it is kind of like the Disney thing, I think.
It touches on innocence in a sense.
Yeah, it touches on like trying to maintain that imagination, and especially in this crazy atmosphere of America. But yeah, at the beginning of the record, the first sound that you hear actually is a recording of like wolves or something at that cabin. So it's kind of cool that the physical place is captured.
That's just an iPhone recording?
Yeah, Jake and I were. You didn't know that?
I remember that, but did you have like a mic? Because we had mics.
We're outside.
Okay, that makes sense.
In the middle
the
of the
wolves
street.
would not have been inside. No
Right.
way.
No way.
Well, I don't know.
We could have invited them in.
It's very rude of you.
Anyway.
That's quite a juxtaposition. The album's called Bambi, and you have wolf sounds on the album.
Yeah.
We're talking with Nathan and Zach of Hippocampus and listening back to the new album Bambi, which is out on Friday. I want to talk more about the sounds on the album, and in the next break, I'm going to ask you guys just, what you want to tell your fans. Your fans who are out there, who are listening to this album for the first time. What do you really want them to know about the album? And I'm going to stop asking questions. Maybe. We'll see. But first, we're going to get into another song, going in sequential order. This is called Think It Over. It's Hippocampus on New Hot on The Current. 89.3 The Current, you're listening to New Hot, and my name's David Suffar. I'm joined by Nathan and Zach of Hippocampus tonight. I'm very excited to have you guys here because your new album, Bambi, comes out on Friday. It's the sophomore release, right? It's the one that a lot of people make a big deal out of, even though I don't think it should be anymore. But this album is a big deal for you guys because it's an excellent album, and we're listening to it in sequential order tonight. That song is called Bubbles. What's up with the name?
Voice memo.
As a child, I was a very big fan of soap and water. No, I'm just kidding. It was a voice memo. Like, we come up with these ideas like, oh, get out your phone, record this, and then someone, I don't know,
Placeholder name.
Call it Bubbles, whatever. It works, okay? We're running with it.
Yeah.
It's a cool name. It represents the principle of the songwriting, all right?
Sure.
Because, it's like you got that big thing in the middle that almost feels like a pop.
Yeah, you're convincing me. I'm still not on board, but you're convincing
I'm convincing you. That's good.
Nathan, I don't believe you. I don't think you've been talked into it yet.
I can keep talking. No,
Is it too late to change the name?
I genuinely think that it fits the song in principle of like songwriting.
Yeah.
It has this simmering quality, if you will.
Yeah.
And then it I don't know. I like that song. It's honestly one of my favorite songs.
It's an apology song too. It's kind of like it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't try harder to make this work. Kind of
Lyrically.
Yeah, lyrically. It deals with the same relationship that Why Even Try dealt with.
Yeah.
But it's like an afterthought, kind of.
I think it's more of an emotional reflection of those same themes, but
Totally.
in the musical sense as well as the lyrical sense. It has both.
We're in the studio with Nathan and Zach of Hippocampus. We're talking about the new album Bambi, which is out on Friday. You guys, for many fans, this is the big moment back, right? You've been active, you've been touring, you've been playing shows, you've been writing, you've been releasing singles. It's nonstop, but this is a big moment for you guys. So for all the fans out there listening, what do you want them to know about this album? If they're listening to this album for the first time, what kind of context do you want to give them? Where should they be when they listen to it? Before we started recording, you guys were debating whether this was a late night album or is this like coffee on a Sunday morning.
Right.
I wouldn't say coffee on a Sunday morning.
I don't drink coffee.
That's Nora Jones territory, and no one's allowed to cross it. But this is, I'd say, like, if you can listen to it by yourself in a car, driving preferably, that's a great way to listen to it. Headphones in your room, it doesn't matter. However you want to digest the music that you choose to.
Yeah. I think I want. First of all, our fans are such a huge part of why we do what we do, and we love them. And thank you all. We love you. I think the feeling of confusion that I had and still have with this album is I want that to carry over. I want people to be asking questions at the end of it, the way that I'm doing now. Obviously we can't guarantee that, but I think that this is a huge question mark for us, and not in not when it comes to, is this what we were supposed to do? Because it was, but just like, what is this thing? You know, it's so hard to look at it and understand, I guess, because there was so much going on at the time.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, with most records, I usually give them at least two chances, and I think this one's a grower. You know, because it's a huge change. People are going to be a little confused, I think, at first, but it reflects what we wanted to say honestly, or in what we had to say, and hopefully, you know, what I wanted to convey most was like a sense of beauty, with the music, with a sense of the, you know, like the ideas lyrically. That's all I really care about in music, is just like some sort of like reflection of humanity. Ideally, it would be a transcendence of humanity, but then, you know, at its core, just some sort of beautiful moment that you can take away.
Yeah, it's also it's a glimpse into like a therapy session for us, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue, because this next song is called Honestly, which just that word alone could mean so many things. And when people, you know, start a sentence with honestly or to be honest, it always comes kind of as
50-50.
a loaded thing, like, okay, what's next, right?
Is there a reason why you wouldn't be?
Yeah, right? And what I love about the beginning of this song is because you guys do this incredible job of taking your songs and really like weaving the production together, and they sound seamless. And on this song, at the very start of it, we get to be a fly on the studio wall for 1 second, because it starts with a studio outtake, which I love. So where does this studio outtake come from? Where are we when this moment happens where you do the false start?
Jake and Zach and I are in a side like guitar room.
It's like an isolated
like sliding glass door room.
In what studio?
Electrical audio, yeah.
Chicago.
And Whistler's out in the main room with the huge drum sound. And
we'd written the song like literally 5 minutes prior to tracking it.
It was so, I don't even, where did it come from? I don't even know.
You had those chords, and then we were like, let's kill some time, try to write a song. And then like we wrote a song, and we were like trying to get it down, and we started it like a bunch of times, and we were just tracking all of it. And then this take, we like started it, and then Jake screwed up, and he's like, I'm sorry. And then Whistler's like, yeah, you suck. And then we keep going. Either way, we thought it was a funny moment. And I think it's always good to take a break from the overwhelming seriousness that music can sometimes have, especially on a record like this, where it's like pretty heavy, it's pretty dark. This moment is like, it's kind of meta, it's a nice little break. And
it's like, yeah, we're still here. We're still human beings making music.
Maybe the fuel that you need for the last section of the album.
Human music.
I like it.
Well, let's listen to it. We're listening to the new album from Hippocampus. It's called Bambi. It's out on Friday, and this is Honestly on The Current. 89.3 The Current, you're listening to New Hot. It's Monday night, and tonight on the show, we are listening to the new album from Hippocampus. It's called Bambi. It's out on Friday, and we're listening to the album top to bottom. And we're joined by Nathan and Zach of the band to talk about the making of this new album. And we're at the end of it, which is a bummer because I've had so much fun hanging out with you guys. We just heard a song called Golden. Before that, a song called Honestly. And honestly, I'm really excited for this album to be out and for you guys to share it with your fans.
Thank you.
And for you guys to hit the road. You're going on a few big tours, including 2 nights at the Palace Theater Thanksgiving weekend. It's going to be a huge homecoming for you guys. I'm guessing you're going to get a lot of people reaching out, right? Hey, can I get into the show?
Can I get my entire family on the list?
I already asked you guys, and you said yes, right?
Yep. David, he's good.
But let's talk a little bit more about this album and how it's different from your debut Landmark. For people who are just tuning in and they're hearing these songs for the very first time, and maybe they expected, you know, more of what they heard on the first release or the first songs that you shared with people. You guys have talked this hour about this having some darker themes, talking about anxiety, depression, relationships, kind of looking forward into the future. So that song Golden, what's that one about?
Relationships. Still.
Surprise.
Yeah. That was an earlier demo that we had too, right?
Yeah, we, what was it?
It was Think It Over, and that one.
Yeah, we just recorded those in my old room in Woodbury, and we were like, these are fun. Let's keep these around, and we honestly, I didn't expect anything to come out of Think It Over or Golden, but then when we got into the studio with BJ, they actually like turned out to be like pretty cool moments that added to the narrative of the album, because like from top to bottom, it does have this like pretty coherent narrative about relationships and the way that they can affect us and the way that we see each other. But I don't know, we were just being truthful with ourselves in terms of like what we wanted to put out. Like, this is like how we want to create, this is what we want to talk about, and this is how we feel like we can push ourselves forward creatively and as friends. So like, this is what came out, and I think it was a very beautiful and very challenging process, and it's reflected all over Bambi. And hopefully people can follow these themes from Landmark, or hopefully they can find something new to enjoy about it. But
you talked a little bit about, like songs being written sort of in the context of like, this song's going to be great when we go get on stage and we're going to like, tear it up and people are going to love this, versus sort of creating songs with this other different intention, right? So you guys played these new songs live. What's the experience been like?
Frightening.
Yeah, it's terrifying, first of all, because like we've been rehearsing a lot the past couple weeks, and we're just trying to get it all down. But we played like the first run through in New York not too long ago, and the reception was really good. But it was obviously people's first time hearing the song, so there is like when you play a song for the first time, people are like kind of just sitting there listening to it. But then if they know a song, they can like sing along, dance along, whatever. So I'm having a lot of fun playing these songs. But
are you excited to see the reactions?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as long as, yeah. What am I saying? Yeah.
So an album is still an event. It's a big deal for any band who's worked on a body of work, put together more than a handful of songs. But you guys have released singles in between albums and EPs, and the closer on the album is one of those songs. It's called Passenger. You shared it with fans before you'd announced the title of this album. So talk a little bit about Passenger, and was it a contender to be on the album since the beginning, or did you decide to include it at the last minute?
Yeah, it was always around. It was a song that Jake had written pretty very first stage of the writing process.
One of those early demos.
Yeah, and it was pretty apparent that it was a song we all liked, and it just kind of stuck around as things do, and again, relationship things, and the album version has an added like piano instrumental, really beautiful in my opinion, piano instrumental that Whistler wrote, that we kind of tagged on last minute, and we were unsure if we were how that was gonna work, having released it as a single without announcing the album, and then ending the album with that song, but I think it works out. It's kind of it's a nice bookend, and that sample at the beginning of the album in Mistakes, where the man I was talking to was singing that song, comes back at the end of Passenger, and it's just like, okay, yeah, we did it. We talked about what we wanted to talk about, which was very introspective things, and feelings that we weren't expecting to feel, but had to go through anyway.
Right. And what I hope is that they can like sort of, these introspective elements can have their reflection in other people as well. Like they can understand like the things that we're going through while our experiences are totally different. It's like, we have the same insecurities about relationships. We have the same anxieties in everyday life. So
it's a shared experience.
Right.
I think it should be a shared experience. So yeah, it worked out.
You guys, I am so thankful that you came in to talk about the album and to share it with our listeners.
Man, our pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
Nathan, Zach of Hippocampus, thanks for being our guests today. The new album, Bambi, is out on Friday. You've heard it here on New Hot, and we're going to play the album closer. It's called Passenger, and it's on The Current.